welcome back to Anna Rose Reads the podcast. I am your host, Anna, and this week I am super excited to be delivering one of probably my longest episodes to date for a single volume, and that is with Mr. Nat Cassidy on his collection, I Know a Place. Now, this collection is massive for a lot of reasons. It's fucking fantastic, to be frank, but also it's like literally a greatest hits album of all of the stories that we know from that, like Rest Stop that's already been released, plus a whole bunch of other short stories that you may have read elsewhere and some new ones. So it's just this perfect amalgamation of horror, and I picked three of them to talk to with Nat about, although we could probably about all of them, if I'm being honest. It's just a full array of horror that is on full display in this collection. I am so excited for people to read this thing. It is nothing short of spectacular. So we'll talk about that in this interview and plenty of other things. We are really all over the map with our conversation. So you'll see what we're talking about when you listen, but I'll catch up with all of you after. Hello, Mr. Nathaniel Cassidy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Ms. Anna Rose Dupree. I am tired. It's
Yeah.
Sunday. I have no reason to be tired. I'm just tired.
I feel like we're both on that wavelength of like it's a Sunday and we're just tired and we
Yeah,
don't really need a reason to be tired. We
yeah,
just
you're right.
are, you know?
Just gonna I'm just gonna settle back into the malaise of 21st century America and just be tired.
As you should. I mean, you open up your phone, you read the news, and I feel like it's justified then and there. So I think,
Yep.
all the justification done for you.
I
Uh
actually here's a video exclusive. Sorry, listeners of the podcast, but my wife got me this, which is called a methaphone, which is a lucite phone sort of substitute. So when I have the urge to just look at my phone, especially when I'm writing, I just pick up this thing, and it is literally like a pacifier to just like get rid of that urge to scroll.
that is brilliant.
Yeah.
Where did
While
she
I
find that?
I don't know.
I'm gonna
I
have to
don't
ask her
know, but it was
because
made for me.
no, that's so brilliant. I love that very much. Description for people who can't see it. It is literally just a pane of glass in Nat's hand. A small smartphone sized thick pane of glass. Which I love very, very much, and I might need to invest in one myself because I
It
can't
helps.
help it.
It
It
helps. While I literally work on my book about how much I hate smartphones.
yeah, that very timely. Very, very timely. You should do a deal with whoever, is it Nightfire that's putting that book out?
Yeah, oh, you're right.
You should
We should
do a
get some
deal like
branding.
buy a book, get that thing.
Get the methaphone.
Yeah, and it can have the Nightfire emblem on it, so it's like free marketing. At least there's that. You can look at that.
See? Now I'm not tired anymore. Now I'm excited. I'm jazzed. I'm so glad
In
we did this.
incredible.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yep, that was it. All right. Oh, okay, but the real reason that we are here to chat today is you have a rather, in my opinion, big collection coming out in
It's a
a few
chonker.
months'
It's
time.
definitely a chonker.
Yeah, I don't have a physical. I only have the e-copy, but I've been seeing pictures online. It's a big one, but in terms of physical size and emotional size, I would
Hey, thank
say
you.
a big one. I Know a Place, which is your short story collection that's coming out with Shortwave Books in May 5th. Is that
May
right?
5th.
May 5th. Okay. How are you feeling about that?
I'm very excited. I am also just kind of reaching that phase where it's almost like, oh shit, that's coming out soon. I need to
Yeah.
start like really promoting it because it was a kind of compressed uh uh on-ramp to
Yeah.
it being released in a way. Like I feel like we've been planning it for a while, but compared to like a Nightfire book or something like that, which those tend to be like locked a year before the publishing date.
Yeah.
This I think we just kind of like literally stopped making edits. I don't know, a month ago or something like
Yeah.
that. Like it just went to the printers a couple of weeks ago. So there is this feeling of like, oh God, look at the time. it's a month and a half away. I gotta start making TikToks and all that stuff. I gotta start talking to podcasters.
Oh, really?
Oh, well,
Imagine that.
hello.
Yeah. Well, I have a little bit more like a logical question with this, and it's more of how did this kind of come to be with shortwave? Because, like the big chunk of this is your novella Rest Stop that's
Mhm.
in I Know a Place, and that obviously came out with shortwave like 2 years. Is that 2 years ago? Holy shit.
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago. So how did we get from Rest Stop to collection? Like, what was that process like?
So, Rest Stop did really well for shortwave, which I'm very, very grateful for everyone who bought a copy and said nice things about it. And so it wound up being, I think, shortwave's best seller.
Hmm.
And this was before shortwave got this new deal with Simon and Schuster, a distribution
Yeah.
deal, which is a huge deal for shortwave, and it's an incredible boon to their profile and their availability in bookstores everywhere. And since Rest Stop was their top seller, we were like, well, we should re-release it. So now it has Simon and Schuster's distributive weight behind it. But we don't want it to just be like, hey, buy this again, would you? Like, we got to do something to make it worth buying again. And so at first we were like, why don't I've done 4 chapbooks with shortwave, so it's like, why don't we add those to it? And then, at that point, I got a couple other short stories that have like been previously published. Why don't we tack those in there? And then you know what? I love a short story collection. It's one of my favorite things. Why don't I write some new stuff for this too? And before we knew it, we had a table of contents that was like 13 different pieces. I mean, Rest Stop is now page length wise, it's like not even a third of the page length. It's
Yeah.
primarily short stories with this novella as its just kind of opener. And I also didn't want it to be just like a random assortment of stories. I wanted there to be like a thematic sort of thread throughout them. And it was just one of those things where like fortuitous decisions kept being made without a huge amount of forethought, but then a lot of afterthought where we were like, like just as an example, the title of the collection, um, it was originally just going to be called Rest Stop and Other Dark Detours. We went back and forth for a long time about like what the and other thing would be, what the
Yeah,
collective
yeah.
phrase at the end would be. We finally settled on Dark Detours, and then it was like a week or two later where I was like, this phrase keeps popping into my head. What if we actually like make the collection its own title? So it's not just Rest Stop and a bunch of other things, but it'll be its own entity. And then we were like, yeah, that'll be great because that'll help with like sales and things like that. People won't feel like they're just buying the same thing again. And then, again, just completely fortuitously, it was like, oh shit. And that title actually speaks to a theme that is running through all of these stories and like it ties into a few other things. I was able to have it directly quoted in at least one story. And so, yeah, it all just kind of clicked together in a really satisfying way. Um, which, working with Shortwave has always been such a pleasure and such a dream with everything I've released with them. And then this was no exception. And then about halfway through the writing process of the new material, that's when I got the deliriously ambitious hair up my ass to just see if Stephen King wanted to contribute an intro, and was never expecting him to say yes. And then when he said yes, there was an additional sort of, oh fuck, we just realized, going back to the compressed kind of on ramp. I wrote to him in like November, I think, and we did the math, and we were like, oh, he would need to read this by like January at the latest, just to have time to actually write a thing and us
Yeah.
put it into the manuscript before the manuscript gets locked. And I still had like 4 short stories left to write, and like some of the big ones. So I had to, once he said yes, it was like, okay, now I have to write 150 pages or something like that in like 2 weeks to try and nail
Shit.
it all down and send it to him. So yeah, it was all the short answer to the question you asked a long time ago was it was very hectic, but very delightful.
Well, yeah, no, well, look, there's no such thing as a short answer in any of this.
Especially
But
not with me as
like,
your guest.
look, that's why we love having you, okay? Some of the lengthiest, most intricate conversations come from having you on. Um, but it was interesting to me because you strike me as the kind of person who you have like a repository of just like short stories, either that have been published or have not been published, kind of like, we could use this here, or maybe, whatever, like we could do whatever. So, how many of the stories in I Know a Place are new compare? Because I know like there's the four chapbooks from Shortwave. There's I Know a Place. Nice came from The Darkest Night, I believe.
Hmm.
Like there's a couple that I recognize, but then like are all of the new ones new, or
Let's
were
see.
you pulling those out of, hey, I had this for a bit, maybe I can take another look at it and we'll throw it in there too. You know what I mean?
I have to literally look at the table of contents because I'm like, what is in this book? Uh, uh,
When I
so
prepared, I had to do the same as
uh,
well because I could not remember all of what was in this book because there were so many.
when I have like Zooms or general meetings with producers and stuff like that, and they will always invariably ask like, what have you written and what are your favorite things? I literally have a note on my computer that just lists what I've written, not because I've written so much that I can't remember it, but just like literally if I'm asked to recall something, I'm like, I don't know. What have I have I
Well, it's
written
like if
anything?
somebody asks you, what did you read recently? And I was like, I've never read a single book ever. What are you
Oh
talking to
God.
me about?
What is a book? I don't know. Um, so let's see. So we got Rest Stop. We got Meet Cute number one. That used to be a short play, so that had never been
Okay.
published or written as a short story before.
Right on.
Uh, Generation was a chapbook.
Yeah.
Nice was in the Lindy Ryan collection that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Art of What You Want, another chapbook. Lunar Eclipse, never before published. Laugh Lines, chapbook. Run for Your Life, never before published. I wrote that. That was the last story that was written for this collection in just a white hot fucking panic burst. Like, I gotta get this to Stephen King.
That's so fucking nuts, dude. Like we're gonna go back to that in a minute, but keep going.
And I literally changed the ending of it even after we locked the after like we sent Stephen King the manuscript. So that one's a brand new placenta covered baby.
Holy shit.
Uh, Jubilee Juncture that was published in Human Monsters,
Oh,
a
okay, okay,
collection,
okay, you're
yeah,
right.
with Sadie Hartman and Ashley Sawyer edited it.
Yeah.
Dark Matter Inc., I believe.
Yes.
Um, Come, brand new, was originally a short play. Into the Life of Things, brand new, was originally a short play. Scariest Thing, brand new, was originally a short play. And then A Fruiting Body, which is a performance piece
Yeah,
that
yeah,
has
yeah.
been done on, various live events and things like that that I like to bust out to make things very weird
And interesting, yeah.
and interesting. Yeah, so I would say about half of it is or a little more than half is brand new,
Mm-hmm.
but a chunk of those brand new pieces existed in another
The four.
format.
Okay, gotcha.
And again, like going back to what I was saying earlier, it wasn't so much I was just like, oh, it'll be easy to adapt some short plays that already exist for this collection. It was more like, oh, these stories have some thematic links to these other stories. So
Yeah,
why don't I break them into a new format so that they can all kind of talk to each other
yeah.
and bounce off of each other? Because it's in a lot of ways it's really hard to adapt a short play into another format, and I think if I may say so myself. I think these all kind of work the best in
Oh
this
yeah.
short story format now, so I'm really glad
Well,
to
they're
have
all
them this way.
pretty much pretty punchy. Is like the other than the thematic through line. That's the one thing that I like when reading. I was like, okay, we're getting to the point. Like we're getting in and we're getting out. Like there's not a whole lot of. I mean, there's lingering when there needs to be, but like it's very punchy. And so like what do you do to change? I mean, like obviously the formatting is different, but like on the creative side, were there any like big changes that you made in those stories from the play format to the short story format, or did you keep like the same kind of result the same?
the bones of the story itself
Hmm.
are for the most part the same.
Okay.
And one of the things I loved about these stories and how they speak to the other stories in this collection is that a lot of them are centered around conversation and
Yeah.
dialogue
Yeah.
and people literally in a place because they all have a very specific setting. All these stories have a very specific setting that is affecting the characters. And one of the things I loved about the super title, I Know a Place, is A, it evokes location, but B, it is basically a line of dialogue. It's
Yeah,
a
it's
thing
a
you say to
conversation
someone
piece. Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so conversation is very important to all of these stories. And that sort of that reveal of identity and like, oh, I'm not speaking to the person I thought I was speaking to, or I'm not the person I thought I was after this conversation. So it's a lot about, that sense of claustrophobia on a number of levels. Um, so yeah, the general shape of the story is the same in both formats. I guess I would. I've never attempted to really describe it before, so you're coming with me on a maiden voyage here. But I guess I would describe it as similar to the difference between uh, writing about how music makes you feel or
Mm,
playing music. Like a
interesting. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
yeah, a play is a very experiential
Right.
thing. And as a playwright, then you are basically writing sheet music for the actors to evoke certain things and to form certain physical pictures and to melodically inform the audience how they want to feel and the shape of the story and the arc and stuff like that. Because you are writing for a performer to convey.
Yeah.
Uh, but then when you were putting it into a like prose format, you have none of those tools at your disposal. So the things that might work in play format, like as a playwright, I love overlapping dialogue and I love really realistic sounding dialogue and ums and sentence fragments and stuff like that. You put that in
Yeah.
a story and it's fucking chaos. Like you don't get any of the same effects at all. And similarly, like, I probably not surprising anyone. I'm very directorial in my plays. So there's a lot of cues for the actor of like,
Yeah.
play this opposite what you think the line might read, or say this angry line with a smile or things like that. Uh, because the in-person effect of that will affect the audience in a certain way, but you don't have that sort of manipulation in the prose format. So it's finding different ways to achieve a similar effect. And sometimes, I know I'm jumping around a lot, so forgive me. But sometimes you'll encounter like a really interesting barrier. Case in point, the second Meet Cute story, um, which I know you want to talk about in more specific later. Um, but like that was as a play, that was one of my favorite little love stories that I've ever
Yeah.
written. Like when you watch that story with two actors and you're there in the room with them watching, this kind of horrifying conversation unspool between the two of them. Uh, they get together at the end of the play. Spoilers, I guess. But like the play ends with them. It ends as a romance. It ends and it works. And you as an audience member are like, oh, look at them. Like I can see why they made their decisions and choices and stuff like that. And as I was setting that dynamic into a prose format, right away I was like, oh, that can't happen. There's no way anyone would buy that happening because like
Hmm.
we're in the characters' heads
Yeah.
and you don't have the benefit of seeing like an actor literally manipulating your own feelings with their face and their voice and stuff like that. So there had to be a completely different arc of the story because you just cannot get the same effects with a different medium. So it was a really interesting experience and like learning process too of like some of the things that I thought actually made these stories work as plays had to be completely re-envisioned to work in a different format.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I do think that you managed to pull off a lot of what you're saying that it wouldn't work that way. But, I feel like the big focal point of all of this is like the show don't tell policy in writing.
Mm.
It's like you want to be demonstrative and you want to have the reader doing the thing through implication, not through direction, which is the exact opposite of a play, like you said, like to say specifically what you want somebody to do
Hmm.
in their performance. So it's really interesting and like it's kind of like a brain fuck. I feel
Yeah.
to work backwards in that way. But I mean, and I'm not gonna say like I don't have extensive experience reading plays, but like none of the stories to me read it. Like I wouldn't have guessed that Meet Cute number two would have been a play at all. Like
Oh,
they've
yay.
it's a very seamless narrative. So it's really interesting that you kind of had to undo and redo the work that you had already done, but maintain the integrity of the story. It's like it's kind of like surgery, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. And
You know?
that's part of the fun of it too, because as a playwright or as a story writer or whatever medium you're trying to tell a story in, ultimately it's about clear characters in a situation facing a dilemma,
Yeah.
and then the result of their decisions. Like that's ultimately it. So as long as you're like connecting back with the characters, however, whatever medium you're using to tell that story has its own rules and it has its own language, that you have to obey and you have to honor. But once you get used to that kind of shift, like it's still ultimately the same mechanics. I
Yeah.
think where adaptations tend to fall short is usually when they are trying to force another medium's mechanics onto it. Like you can
Yeah.
even look, I'm going all over the place. But like you can look at like a Stephen King adaptation like Firestarter, for
Hmm.
example, with Drew Barrymore, which is uh, one of the most faithful Stephen King adaptations, as far as movies go. Like beat for beat, it is the book, and it doesn't work in the
Hmm.
same way because there are things that happen in the book that are just you can't put them into a screen. You have to translate it into another medium, and
Yeah.
use that medium's tools and instruments and stuff like that to greater effect, which is why some of the best Stephen King adaptations take a lot of liberties with the source
Yeah.
material because they're getting at the same thing through a different route.
Yeah, and I think the other big cornerstone, and you can correct me if you feel differently about this, is perspective. Like,
Mm,
because especially with I'm really thinking about Me Cute number two, is
yeah,
like the you kind of shift even within that short story to being very internal in a
yeah.
way, and then like you kind of end up on a barfly perspective by the end of it. And you do that very well with all of the stories in the collection because like even for instance like Laugh Lines is told in emails. Like, so
Mm,
we're not, it is a conversational piece, but you're removing a huge point of human connection with that story because it's all digital, but it's still conveying the same pieces. So I find it's really interesting that you can shift perspective so much and like across all different mediums, but maintain the integrity of that same kind of conversational piece, if that makes sense.
yeah. Oh, thank you. That's such a high compliment. Yeah, and that's a great observation. Like that's really what it comes down to. And like one of the reasons why Meet Cute number two had to change the way it did,
Yeah.
because like as a play, you're always on the remove. You're
Yeah.
always watching, across a proscenium, and kind of bringing your own perspective to what you're seeing. But when you're reading a thing, especially if it's like a close third person, or in the case of Laugh Lines, if it's multiple first person sort of emails being exchanged, your relationship with the story is so much more intimate, and like
Yeah.
so you don't have that chasm, that Wagnerian chasm, to go back to theater history. You don't have an orchestra pit between you and the action. Like you're
Yeah.
you're like inside the characters' heads, and so you have to honor the sort of new perspectives that you're in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's almost overwhelming for me to think about how some of these would be plays, just like you bringing up the orchestra pit, like just all of the different things that you have to account for that you can't in fiction, like on fiction on paper, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
The
kind of nuts.
funnest plays were Jubilee Juncture
Oh, I
and
can believe
Life
that.
of Things.
Yeah.
Like the effect of the dummy in Jubilee Juncture on stage is so fucking gross. I love it so much. So I had to find a way to make it as gross as I could on the page, but oh, there was nothing like just being in a room with that fucking thing.
I mean, that's very fair, but also to give you your credit. Very disturbing on the page as it stands.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So I want to start talking. I have like three specific, well, they're technically four, but three specific stories that I wanted to talk about. And these are some of the ones that just spoke to me the most. And one of them is the Run for Your Life, which is the one that you just mentioned that you wrote under a significant crunch, which is beyond my wildest comprehension. Um, I'm
I
gonna,
was so close to cutting it. I was like, maybe we just need to leave this out. And the
no.
main reason why I kept it in was because I thought Stephen King would like it. I was like, I gotta finish it. I feel like he's gonna like this one.
I love that. I really love that you said that. So, yeah. So, but I want to, can you pitch this story? Like, can you synopsize this story? Like, can it be done? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some people, the more dismissive responses on Goodreads, which I really try not to read
Oh God, I
anymore.
cannot imagine.
Who are just like, oh, this is just like the movie Yesterday. And I have even fallen into the shorthand of calling it basically Evil Yesterday.
Yeah.
I had the idea well before the movie Yesterday came out, and it's actually very different from Yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday is a movie where a guy wakes up in his present day and he's like, oh, nobody remembers the Beatles somehow. Like the Beatles got erased, but I still know all the songs, and so he starts playing the songs in present day and is like, oh, people really like these songs. It's a movie I do not care for at all. Uh, this story, Run for Your Life, is uh, well, the synopsis is basically a very frustrated musician who's actually a brilliant musician, an
Yeah.
actual like savant musician who, uh, through circumstances such as the time in which he's living, which is right now, and the place in which he's living, which is in the middle of nowhere, he just cannot make a living as a musician other than performing in cover bands, and he's so miserable. But he's also a massive Beatles obsessive, and he knows these songs inside and out. And after one particularly depressing cover band gig in just this shitty bar in the middle of nowhere, he has a bit of a breakdown, and the bar's bouncer shows him this magical time portal that the bar's owner has figured out how to concoct. That basically, because the bar's owner is also a huge Beatle fan, and he was like, "I did this so like I can always go back in time and see the moment when Paul met John and feel inspired." And feel like there is, there's hope for humble beginnings. Great things can come from humble beginnings. One of the many, many beautiful things about the Beatles story. And our narrator then promptly goes back in time and prevents John and Paul from ever meeting, and then steals all their songs in advance so that he can be essentially a one-man Beatles. And for a little while, it works, and then it stops working, and things start cracking, and he starts losing his mind under the pressures of fame and of, let's say, a couple of also struggling musicians from Liverpool who start reading into the songs the way sometimes obsessive fans do and be like, wait a minute, that's about where I grew up, or like that's my mom's name, or I think you're writing about me. I wrote this song when I was 13. How did
Is
you
this
know this
play
song?
about us? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's an extended like Poe homage, really, of just kind of like a guy doing a really ill-advised thing and then cracking under the pressure of it. And it's inspired by my own deep obsession with the Beatles. I was that guy. I learned how to play guitar just like by playing two Beatles albums and the Beatles anthology and demos and live tracks and stuff like that. I learned every Beatles part, and I was just kind of this obsessive little lonely kid who was just like, I'll play with the Beatles. I don't need friends. I can play with the Beatles. And yeah, so I wanted it to be a story about our relationship to fame and our relationship to our heroes and our idols, and that sort of parasitic assumption that I think a lot of people can start to have when it's, you know, uh, uh, since I know these things so well, surely they're mine. Like I
Hmm.
have ownership of them. I can play these
Yeah.
songs. I know what makes these songs special. So why not me? Why shouldn't I get the adulation and the acclaim? Um, and then I had a little bit of a crisis of confidence when I realized I was writing that story and then sending it to my idol, being like, "Now tell me what you think. Give me an introduction, would you? I deserve it." Um, but yeah, I'm very proud of it because like it speaks, and that's another reason why I then rankle at just like dismissing it as evil yesterday,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's
yeah.
just the kind of cute shorthand for it. It's about some very serious and sticky and tricky things that I'm really proud of, and it's full of Beatles Easter eggs. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
another thing about Goodreads is it's been so I kind of anticipated this, but seeing it play out is always fascinating. Where like there are some people who are like, I don't care about the Beatles. I hated this story. And then there are some people who are like, I don't know anything about the Beatles, but I really liked this story. And then there are some people who are like, I'm obsessed with the Beatles, and this is my favorite story ever written. So it's been really interesting to see people's
it's
various
so
relationships to the inspiration.
it's so weird to me because there's a couple pieces. There's so many things I want to say about the story, but like one, at the time that I read the story, I did not know that the introduction was to Stephen King. Like I didn't know that had not been released information yet. So I think I kind of wonder if my lens of reading it would have changed a little bit with that
Oh
knowledge.
yeah.
But it's really funny that you say that. But no, so the thing about it that really humored me was I feel like any kind of person who has an ounce of artisticness in their body has had the moment of like, what if that were me?
Hmm.
What would it take to get there? And like, what if that, like, what if that could have been me or whatever? And so I was reading that story and I like turned to TJ and I was like, this is the best fucking thing ever. I was like telling him about it. He's like, I've kind of thought that about that before, but not like that deep. And I'm like, no, Nat just like really got into it. Just like really, really got into it. But I think whenever you're a creative person and you're struggling at any point, you wonder what it is, what piece of magic, what oomph it is to get you over the finish line to make it original and not just a copy of somebody else's thing or to not feel like the imposter syndrome of it all, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is it going to take to kind of get us there? And that's where I feel like the first third of the story left me. And then the rest of like all of this was how much research did Nat have to do for this? Oh wait, probably none because he really loves the fucking Beatles.
Not
That
a
was
drop.
that was the rest of my thought. And then by the end of it, I really loved what you did. It's almost like a kind of like a sci-fi tilt, I'd say,
Hmm.
to the realization of, like you said, like some people were realizing that what this is not right in some way. This seems weird. This seems off. This seems uncanny. And I think, even more so, the success of this particular individual who is trying to promote and sell and promote these songs that are not really his, but the people of the past don't know that, but it's to a different outcome. And that to me is what really sticks to me is like art is it's art, not just for the product, but for who made it.
Exactly.
And that just like sent me into an otherworldly oblivion of like thought about art. And like, did it feel that way when you were writing it? Like, did you have a crisis of like artisticness when you were writing this thing, or were you just like, I got to get the words out, you know?
It was the hardest story of this whole thing, and I saved it for last because I thought it was going to be the easiest. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I can talk about the Beatles for fucking days on end without interruption. Like this will be. I knew the format. I knew the sort of Poe kind of arc of the whole
Yeah.
thing. So I was like, that one I'll save for last because that one I can fire out in like 2 days, and it wound up taking me like several weeks of just like fucking focused, like
Yeah.
feverish sort of panic to try and say all the things I wanted to say, in part because I realized, like I was just kind of describing earlier, I thought it was going to be more of like a laugh, like it was just going to be
Yeah.
like a sort of fun little spooky story. And the more I got into it, the more I was like, am I doing what I'm satirizing in this story? Like, am I showing my own sort of uh, uh, like parasocial ownership of something that I shouldn't even be dealing with. Like I mean, even just the idea of like originally the story was going to be, I was imagining it was going to be like he does this, and then Paul and John become like obsessed fans who essentially like kill him
Yeah.
and like get their revenge on him. And then I was like, oh, but that also sits weird, like especially knowing what happened to John Lennon and the
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of the violent fandom that has like one of the most poignant and awful examples in their story, and things like that. And so it was like, no, this needs a subtler, more considerate hand to do this story justice. And it took a lot of thought and a lot of
Hmm.
sitting and living in the psychology of it and doing the thing that you just described so well. Like I realized about halfway through that really what the story is besides the sort of genre entertainment of it all, but what it really is an examination of what makes art work.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is going into some spoilers, but I think we'll all be fine. Like the guy starts to realize, much to his frustration, especially towards the latter half of the Beatles story, which is a very short story. They're only recording for like 7 years, 7 or 8 years. And as he's releasing like the later albums, which are, the most masterpiece of the masterpieces, people stop responding to them as well.
Yeah.
And it's infuriating, and it starts to cause him to go more and more insane because, like, what do you mean you don't like Abbey Road? Abbey Road's
Yeah.
like the best fucking album, but Abbey Road is special because it was made of four different people who are in very different places in their lives talking to each other through music. It wasn't one guy doing a thing. Like, it's not just the objective qualities of these songs that make them so magical. It's the places from which they were coming and the contexts in which they were made. And it's one of the many reasons why, again, like, I don't care for the movie Yesterday, because
Hmm.
Yesterday is kind of like, aren't these songs good? Like, what if
And
you
that's
got
it.
to
Yeah.
write these songs? And it's like, no, part of what makes these songs so magical is that you can feel each individual neuroses, like each individual's neuroses coming through in the songs, and you get so invested in the story of these four guys who were, in their fucking 20s and didn't know shit about shit and were like suddenly changed the world and had to figure out how to like manage that responsibility on top of just like trying to keep a friendship and like start relationships and get married and all that stuff. So like hearing from a band very much in crisis and tension on their last recorded album, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make.
Hmm.
That's an incredibly powerful thing. Hearing from like one guy saying that, who's just been very successful,
Yeah.
and seems to have like this supernatural ability to fire out these great albums, and is becoming kind of a control freak in the studio, doesn't hit the same. And Yeah, so like it became a really poignant and exciting. Like as difficult as it was, and as like frustrating as it was that it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. It The story says a lot of things that I was really glad to say.
Hmm.
Um, on top, even just like here, let me bitch about Yesterday a little bit more. Like I sat when I was watching Yesterday, and this guy is like, oh wow, nobody remembers this band magically, and I was like, yeah, but do the fucking Rolling Stones exist? Does David Bowie exist? Like all the people that have been influenced by the Beatles, they still exist. So like these songs don't feel as magical that way. You can
Hmm.
like there are songwriters as good as Lennon and McCartney out right now. What
Yeah.
made the Beatles special was its like absolute confluence of luck and timing and talent and stuff like that. Um, which is why he had to go back in time and kind of usurp that magic. And so, like, I was also able to just kind of talk about how frustrating it is to be an artist right now in that
Yeah.
first third that you were describing,
Yeah.
of like, you can be so fucking talented now, but like, the entertainment industry doesn't give a shit if you're a
Hmm.
Lennon and McCartney anymore. Like, the constraints against creation right now are so stacked against even just making a middle class income, let alone becoming like an icon.
Yeah.
And so that was also like a fun bit of like catharsis to experience
Yeah.
in this story. I hope that it works on the number of levels that I got to play on it
No, I
as.
I would say that it does because I think it's so ironic in the age of reboots and like or spin-offs and all this. It's like we're pulling away from originality and like people
Mm,
want originality. I don't know what we have to do to signify to the
yeah.
finance people that we want originality. But then that frustration and like the other thing too that you play around with is the parasocial relationship of it all, which I think is really timely with social media. Like we can,
Hmm.
we can read all of that. But I think picking the Beatles, I mean, other than for obvious reasons that you love the Beatles and all, and they are one of the most, like biggest, if you, the nexus of the change of music, like
Hmm.
whenever you look back at it. I feel like everybody kind of has a Beatles story because, like, for me, whenever I was taking art classes in high school. I went to Catholic school, so like secular music was, very, you had to be very
Yeah.
careful about what you could listen to. But our art teacher, she always, this is back in Pandora days, Pandora radio. She could get away with playing Beatles radio on Pandora. Like that was some of the like the least offensive stuff that she could get away with playing. And so like I always think of Beatles and art intrinsically linked with one another because that was the soundtrack to
Hmm.
learning how to draw and paint and do all the shit that you learn in art class. Um, but I feel like everybody kind of has a Beatles story, whether it's from their mom, their dad, their grandma, school, whenever they realize who the Beatles are and what they are, and then to kind
Yeah.
of interrogate the nexus of that originality and what it would mean for that art to exist in the way that it does and that not just anybody can do it. And it's oddly heartening, right? Like it makes you feel really damn important that you go out and you make your own art because
Yeah.
not anybody else could do it. So as dark as the story is, and full of like conspiracy and very telltale hardy paranoia, very heartening note to end on when you really interrogate it. So bravo for
Yeah.
balancing that tightrope.
Thank you. Yeah. I in the story notes at the end, there's even one, just like one little aside of a sentence that's also like, yeah, the story's also about AI. And people
Yeah.
are like, I made this. This is mine. I'm like, nah.
No, actually not. So no, very timely indeed. Okay, but I want to jump to the next one, the next story, which is Jubilee Juncture, because I think I'm it's
I
hard
mean,
for me
we've
to
already brought up religion. Let's do it.
I know. I think it's the nastiest story in there in terms of just like really going for the throat in terms of like gore, just like brutal, ideas, but still kind of towing that line that I think that you institute and run for your life of like a man overshoots his ability to like control a situation. You know what I
That's a
mean?
great way to put it.
That's how I, connected those two. I was like, that's oddly very thematically interesting. But how the hell did you come up with Jubilee Juncture? And again, this is one of the ones that was in that play format, but like,
Yeah.
where the fuck did that come from, man?
Oh, you might not like the answer.
No.
Some people might already know the answer. I so the full story is I used to be a staff writer for an amazing Grand Guignol theater horror show in the city that it was called the Blood Brothers. And it was hosted by these two guys, totally bald, and they would like paint their faces completely white with like giant red eyes, and they'd just
Yeah.
be like these delightful ghouls. One was like the grunty, animalistic guy, and the other one was like really effete and proper and stuff like that. And they were essentially our crypt keepers, and they would host these series of like short plays that the rest of us who wrote them would write according to like whatever the that show's theme was. And they did a few that were like ripped from the headlines based on true stories,
Yeah.
uh, uh, short plays. And I wrote the play that this story was based on uh, originally for that ripped from the headlines show because this story is not a true story at all. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. It is very much just inspired by where my mind went after reading a news article. We'll be
Hmm.
very very careful to make sure I'm not misrepresenting anything or slandering or libeling anyone. But there was, I think it was in, I don't know if it was the South writ large, but there was a Christotainment public access show called Joy Junction,
Yeah.
and there was a puppeteer who got in a lot of trouble for having on his computer uh, uh, triggers abound here, but I believe it was child pornography, and then also he was looking up tips on cannibalism,
Oh god.
Uh, and so
Double
people wound up
whammy.
getting fired. Uh, and so it was just like the combination of those ingredients, pardon the pun,
Yeah.
that inspired what this story would become, which, is about. I'm Jewish, of course, I should say. So, like, I know a lot of Christianity from a remove. I know it as like an observer.
Yeah.
Um, but as someone who's always been just a morbid little shit, like transubstantiation fucking fascinates me. Like, oh man,
You
that
and
is
me both,
that
pal.
is fertile ground. And on top of just the sort of I, I'm feeling punchy, so I'll just say it this way. The kind of oppressive evangelical fucking boot under which we've all been progressively squeezed over the past several decades.
Yeah.
Just having Bible verses weaponized to harm vulnerable communities
Yeah.
and things that like de facto are very unchrist-like being done in the name of Christ. And it's interesting because the story Nice speaks to a similar frustration in a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
ways. It's one of the reasons why I have a very complicated relationship with Christmas as a holiday. These stories are kind of cousins in that respect. So there's a lot of like weaponized Bible verses and it's the sort of hypocrisy that I find the most fascinating from a story perspective, where it's just like horrible things being done from a very genuine place,
Yeah.
and from that myopia of madness, where it's just like I'm just doing this thing because this is what the book tells me to do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it just
yeah.
all of that is so fucking fascinating to me because as a former Catholic, the shit that you see certain people use as justification for their actions or, like to get away with whatever, even if it's not as, intense as what we're talking about in this story. It can
Yeah,
be
I
like
hope not.
it could be very minute shit, but like even on the grand scale of things, it reads, as delusion. It reads as certifiable delusion. It is so unnerving. It's almost like a form of psychosis where you're
Hmm.
just morphing and changing your reality and the reality of written text and scripture that you're supposed in morphing it to your own needs, which is really fucking terrifying alone. And then, you add another layer of all of that in this story to make it like really, really terrifying. So no, any kind of story that interrogates that religious aspect of oppression and kind of just warping the narrative and like actively gaslighting a whole entire population to advance an agenda is always like my bread and butter. But in particular with this story, like how do you know when to really lean into the horror of a story
Hmm.
or to like to pull back, because this is one that you go full tilt into the wrong and madness of it, to whereas like you have other stories like Nice is also one that you by the end of it you do go full tilt, but you're very light-handed. It's just like a suggestion all throughout until it's not. This one not so much. So how do you balance that storytelling of like we're going here and we're getting like our hands really dirty versus I'll let you sit with this a little bit and come to your own realizations about how wrong this is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. It interestingly, like I have two distinct answers for it because there's like the micro
Hmm.
thought, which is like just each individual story,
Yeah.
and like what does this story want? What will just kind of feel more effective? Which is, I think, in some ways, just kind of an instinctual thing
Yeah.
when you're working on a story of like, oh, this might fuck you up a little bit more if like it's just the shadows,
Yeah.
or if it's full light. And then there's like a slightly more macro uh, level to it too, because I'm very appreciative to hear what you just said, and that was in part by design. I wanted there to be uh, multiple levels of that in this collection because
Hmm.
the idea was essentially the the visible threat from one story will inform the invisible threat of another story. Like this was
Yeah.
very much in play with the meet cute stories. Like those were
Yeah.
originally supposed to be right next to each other because I
We're
really wanted them
we're
to speak
thinking
to
the
each
same
other.
way. Oh,
Yeah.
we're thinking the same way because this follows up on another question that I have, but continue.
Yeah. So like yeah, there are some stories where it's just like it's fun.
Hmm.
I love writing gore and horrible
Yeah.
things and stuff like that. I just enjoy doing it because it's something I like to read. So there's that just base fucking meritless level, and then there are I'll bring it back to Stephen King. Why not? I always do. In his book Danse Macabre, which is his great text on horror as a genre, um, he talks about the distinction between terror, horror, and gross out. That
Hmm.
those are three distinct levels. And one is exactly what it sounds. One is the gross out. One is kind of like the sort of in between, and then one is like the more existential sort of thing, which anytime you're writing a story, either consciously or unconsciously, you kind of are calibrating which what needs what where. Sometimes a story can have all three. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
best when it just has the kind of like penumbric sort of ominous overhang and it leaves the audience just kind of feeling unsettled. And then sometimes it's like, you see the monster, but what the monster does to the victim is a little more gleeful and just kind of quick and dirty.
Hmm.
It really depends on what kind of effect you want to evoke. Um, and I think in a way, it kind of it ties back to what you were saying about Catholicism and things like that. Like I've been to a few Catholic ceremonies, and I'm fascinated by Catholicism. I'm
With all the
fascinated
all the
by
chanting, you mean?
yeah, all the chanting, all the rites. It's so
Yeah.
pagan.
Hmm.
I'm far from the first person to point out you
Yeah.
guys are real pagan.
Oh yeah.
With your gotta collect them all saints and your
Collect.
rituals and like it's real. You're really pushing the bounds of monotheism here,
Oh yeah.
which is fine. Hats off. I respect it, but like it's just fascinating to observe. Um, but like I'll never forget. I went to a Catholic wedding when I was in my 20s.
Who
It
was it?
was
Like
like
3 hours long?
it was a long one. It was
Yeah.
definitely a long one. And it was also like, the first of our peer groups to get married too. So like
Yeah.
had that level of novelty to it too. But it was this Catholic church in Tucson that had my memory has probably warped it, but it was a Christ that I think was like 90 feet tall. Like it was the
Hmm.
biggest
No. Yeah.
crucified Jesus, and he kind of was like extending at a diagonal over the audience, like the mast of a ship.
Hmm.
And the agony on his face. Like this was not like one of those generic, just like, off
He's
the rack.
sleeping. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look how beautiful he is. Like the dude was suffering.
Yeah.
And to just have that basically extending over us while this beautiful ceremony of these two young people in love is happening underneath it. Um, the juxtaposition between the suffering and the love, A, is fascinating. B, I find very poignant. I much like the Beatles, which is another story that I think is just like one of the greatest stories ever told. I think there's a lot to the origins of why worshipers would want to remember that pain and that misery and that sacrifice. Like there's something very poignant about that. But then how over time and over manipulation and over like, men in power who want to use this story for their own gain, like it just becomes background noise. And I find that
Yeah.
so fascinating. That like, like isn't his suffering supposed to be like a reminder to always help the poor and to
Hmm.
always like to do the things he preached and to remember to like in a way distrust people in power because they're not always looking out for the your best interests and for the best interests of humanity and to then have that be like this intense hierarchical power structure and this very like uncharitable sort of outlook that is very distrustful of the needy and things like that and very judgmental. I used to always get into fights with subway preachers
Oh
back
yeah.
when I had more energy and more gumption as like a 20 something in New York because I'd always ask them, "Hey, is pride a sin?"
Yeah.
And like, aren't you a bit proud telling us how to live our lives right now? That kind of contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm rambling now, but like that all was kind of informing the horrors of this,
No,
because in some ways the like more garish special effects in Jubilee Juncture are that's just the wafer and wine. The real horror is that figure on the cross who's just in agony and no one is paying attention to it at this point, like it's just sitting in the
yeah.
background.
Well, like I feel like every Catholic probably has a story where they've seen the most jarring crucifixion that they've come, and like I remember mine was in grade school. We had like a gym, and there was like, like those little conference rooms off the side where like, you had indoor recess if it was raining or whatever. And there was one that it was like this warped wood, but it was polished. I mean, it was refined, and like Jesus was like also part of the wood and like coming
Hmm.
out of the wood, but it was like very dark stained wood, and it's very very jarring, very upsetting, and like this it was like a sorrowful one. It wasn't like
Yeah.
painful, but it was like the sorrow was like I can still picture it in my mind. But beside the point is like that is actually a big focal point for the end of this story. It's like I think it's like the last line that you end on
Yeah.
is on something like this, and it I feel this feels like a cheap question, but it feels like a little bit of a Carrie reference. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the big like I remember thinking like,
Unintentionally,
oh,
but yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that works too. But
Yeah, because
no,
that was kind of the first Jesus I really knew,
yeah.
was the crucifix and De Palma's carry. And it fucking terrified me as a
No,
kid.
it's fucking it's well, and that's the piece of it too, is that I never realized until I was older, and I wasn't it wasn't until I was talking to fellow horror fans who were Catholic or are
Hmm.
Catholic that they were like, no wonder we're fucking horror people. We grew up with a bloody man on a cross in front of us, like at least once or twice a week, and we had to act like everything was fine. And like, don't even get me started on Stations of the Cross and all the kneeling and the whatever and the recitation of like all of that happens every Friday during Lent and all that bullshit. I mean, it's all it's such a weird intersection of like fear to control,
Hmm.
manipulation, violence, gore. I mean, like you could go on and on and on, and like it's weirdly the devotion to it, right? And I mean that plays into your story too. Like,
Yeah.
how devout am I to this cause that I will go this far to maintain this image, this narrative, this idea?
It becomes
Um,
ecstatic. It becomes
yeah.
fetishized
Well, and
and
like frenetic too. Like it's just like
yeah.
a frenzy. It's just scary. It's just fucking terrifying. Bottom line, it's just scary. Which I think you managed to capture all in this very short story. That's like you can read it for the shock value and the fear on the surface, but if you sit with it any longer than that, you're gonna probably arrive the same place that we are now.
And then go to my website and find there's production photos of the play version and then find the
What the dummy
dummy.
look like? God, God bless it.
Who the actor who played the dummy, uh she was also a dancer, so like the physicality she brought to it is terrifying.
Oh, I can
But she
imagine.
is now a brilliant middle grade writer. So it's just lives are long and weird. She's
Lives
writing
are
for
long.
kids, and I have this photo.
That should be your author photo on the back,
That's what
honestly.
I think. It's very approachable.
Yeah. Okay. And then the last set of stories is the Meet Cute number one and Meet Cute number two, which are oddly like bookends a little bit to this collection because you read Meet Cute number one, I think, right after Rest Stop, and then Meet
Hmm.
Cute number two is towards the end of this story. And they feel tonally very different, but there's thematically a lot in common with them. I I'll let you talk about how both of those came to be separately, and then I want to talk about both of them kind of in connection with one another.
Yeah, they those are both also former plays. And that might be apparent to some because they're literally both just conversations at a bar between a man and a woman. Um and so on just like pure mechanics, they're obviously like echoing each other a little bit. But originally I had really wanted them to both be, if I look at Meet Cute number two as basically the closer
Hmm.
of the collection, and then A Fruiting Body is its own like sort of meditation as we prepare to leave the space of the collection. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
the coda. Um But I'd originally wanted both meet cutes to be the finale,
Hmm.
um, because the first one is a bit of a misdirect, hopefully,
Yeah.
but it is driving to a sort of punchline, a nasty little punchline. And that one is unfortunately based on a true story. That will
Yeah.
be very apparent once you get to the punchline. Um, but it's speaking to I if all you care about is the punchline in that story, then maybe it's gonna feel just like a prolonged sort of wheel spinning to get to the point. But really, what it's about is uh, our current moment and
Hmm.
previous moments that have been like our current moment, and this feeling of dread and this feeling of going back to the themes of the collection, claustrophobia and distrust and identities that are slipping, and this feeling of like everything is going wrong and I don't know what to do about it. And all I know is that things feel off,
Hmm.
and that we're in a very bad place. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. Anytime I say that word. Uh, uh, so like, yeah, I wanted that to sort of be a clarion call for the themes of the collection, and so I decided actually it would probably be better to have that be like the first of the short stories.
Yeah.
Like this is our intro to the non-rest stop story, even though rest stop has the same themes and things like that. We always knew Rest Stop was gonna be the first one. We were
Yeah.
gonna do
Yeah.
it Skeleton Crew style and start with the novella. And then again, like much like Skeleton Crew, the story after the Mist is a very, very short story. So I was like, yeah, it would probably be nice to have like the shortest story of the collection too, just to kind of like break up the pieces a little bit and make you feel like a bit of momentum before you go into now the shorter material. Um, and so third Skeleton Crew reference in a minute. There are two linked stories in Skeleton Crew that have super titles, number one and number two. So I was like, okay, I'll do it that way then. Instead of just having the two meet cutes directly be next to each other so the reader can make that connection, I'll separate them across the entire collection, but have them each be meet cute number one, meet cute number two. So that when you get to meet cute number two, the idea is that the threat and the punchline of the first one is informing everything that happens in the
Yeah.
second one.
Well, it's its own character. It's its own character without having to be named.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hope and the idea is that when you get to the second one, there's even a feeling of like, wait, is this the same guy? Is this the same bar? Pretty immediately, I think it's clear that like, oh, it's happening in a different time, so it's
Yeah.
probably not the same guy. Um, but the threat that particularly that the main female character is aware of is the threat from number one. Like
Yeah.
they're just two stories on the timeline of experience. And Yeah, so number two is its own story and it's about its own thing and it's about its own fears and has its own kind of horror and anxieties that it's exploring, but hanging over it is the world that story number one, I think, shines a very clear spotlight on of like this is the reality that we're working under. Yeah, it's kind of it's the question mark at the end of the exclamation point that the
Yeah.
first story is. It's a slightly different punctuation, but it's kind of looking at a similar sentence.
Yeah. I love that I love the background psychological work that is happening because of the placement of those two
Mm,
and like what you institute and then you somewhat deliver. Like, will he deliver on that or will he won't? Like, will we, and that
yeah.
is a huge driving force of how you read that last story. And it was almost like I actually like went back and I was like, wait, I need to reread that again. Like, I need to make sure, like, like what did, it does that questioning and that real mental exercise on the reader's behalf, which I really, really appreciated. But for number one, I'm gonna say this, and I might actually cut it, but I figured it out like
Oh yeah.
seconds before I got to the reveal. And what bothers me is I don't know what made it click for me. I don't know what piece I read that was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's this.
You just got that radar.
I guess, but I would love to know what it was for me that tipped it off because I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, but I was like, he's not gonna, and then you did, and I was like, fuck, it's like, shit, he went there. Um, but no, that invisible thread that kind of institutes itself in two is really, really important. And the planning on that is one, really impressive, but two, with Meet Cute number two, I was really curious how you landed on the ending of that story. Like,
Hmm.
what drove you to end on that? Because I don't want to get too far into it because it's spoilery, but it was oddly an optimistic note, is what I'll say. It was like, well, maybe we will be okay, because like you said, the first one does feel emblematic of the bad place that we are all in, but
Yeah.
two is like, well, maybe we'll be okay. I don't know, like, so how did you get from A to B on that one?
It'll probably sound a bit like a cop out, because it's in a way it's very similar to how I approach the ending of When the Wolf Comes Home, which
Yeah.
is kind of like, what are you bringing to it
Yeah.
to find the optimism in there,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's in there, it's very much in there, and like I said, the play version was explicit in its optimism,
Yeah.
um, but as I was writing the this story again as a story, it just seemed impossible to make that explicit. And I owe a huge debt of gratitude to Rachel Harrison too, because she was my kind of beta reader on this story. Because it's basically a story, without giving too much away, that's all about red flags and
Mm-hmm.
how many red flags can pop up in a conversation with someone on essentially a blind date before it's like, this is too many red flags. And the story is not just too many red flags. It's a fucking like it's a parking
It's a,
lot full of red
it's a sea
flags.
of them, yeah.
It is so many red flags that the whole world is just fucking crimson flapping fabric. Uh, and it kind of in a way like it's appropriate we're talking about it after Jubilee Juncture too, because these red flags are coming if you take this character with the faith that he wants you to take with him. They're all coming from a very sincere place,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like the horror story from his perspective is that he's going to be perceived as a threat,
Yeah.
and the more he tries to say he's not a threat, the more threatening
The
he's
worse
going to
it is, yeah.
become. Uh, and So Rachel was like very helpful in even identifying some red flags that I hadn't even considered, or like things that she was like, well, this is what I would fucking do. Um, and so the first draft of the story that I'd given to her, uh, the threat was even more explicit at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was, again, kind of similar to When the Wolf Comes Home, which originally had a much more nihilistic ending,
Yeah.
that I then softened with a little more of participatory ambiguity, let's say. This one also had a much more ominous feeling ending of like, you know, what would you do? Sort of feeling. And then for no real reason other than hearing from a very trusted beta reader how ominous it was landing, which, for all she knew was my intent. Um, I was just like sitting with it more and more and thinking like it feeling this explicitly threatening kind of goes against the fun of the story, I
Yeah.
think, because I mean, fun is in quotation marks here. It's a very sad and hopefully poignant story. Like I would love it if this were a weepy, but I don't know if it'll get there for most people. But ideally, at least there is the puzzle of it is the fun of it, the feeling
Mm-hmm.
of like, well, fuck, what would I do if I were in that position? And
Yeah.
what would I do if I were in that position? If they're articulated with enough consideration behind both perspectives, then I hope that it lands with that feeling of I don't know what I would do, and so
Yeah.
the final ending is that there's hope in the I don't know. There's been so many explicit threats throughout this collection, and so many reminders of like you do not know who you're dealing with at all. Like you are dealing with a dangerous person and a dangerous person and a dangerous person and a dangerous monster and a dangerous thing, and like the threat is revealed again and again and again. And so meet cute number two and then a fruiting body is the kind of coda, uh sort of end on these feelings, I hope, of but also you don't know. Like we are all we've got, and we're all just kind of navigating this sea of limited information and
Yeah.
uh, myopic perspective, and uh, uh, the only way to get through it is to. I didn't want it to be a nihilistic collection where it's just like there's horrors at every turn. I wanted it to be that up until the very end,
Yeah.
where there's not a glimmer of hope, but at least just like a feeling of like dawn breaking, of like um it's the answer is not isolation. The answer is
Yeah.
not cutting yourself off from other people and just not trusting everything, which is again bringing it back to Stephen King. His my favorite collections of his, while they're not always like so thematically conscious most of the time. Uh, Night Shift, just as an example, his first collection is, full of like EC Comics-esque stories written for porno mags. They're
Yeah.
very nihilistic and they're very fun and punchy and stuff like that. But then you've got like The Last Rung on the Ladder and The
Hmm.
Woman in the Room, like these really kind of poignant, humanistic character pieces. And so I really wanted to have a humanistic character piece full of dread and anxiety and threat and all the stuff that, like, that's the point of the collection. But to still honor that humanism at the very end of, like, but we don't know. We don't
Yeah.
know.
Well,
Yeah.
you kind of like present a solution though to the problem that you institute at the very beginning of the
Mm,
collection. It's like, well, if I had been given all of the knowledge, like if you're sitting in this perspective of if I knew everything ahead of time, would I still make this decision? Would I still be in danger? If I really knew what was going on in this very
yeah.
bad place, what would I do? And I think that Meet Cute number two is a really big exercise in empathy because you do give us all of the information of what's going on. You give us so much information, and you're
Yeah.
still left in a place of, well, what would I do? And I think that the answer in that place and the one that comes from a place of optimism is it doesn't sometimes it doesn't matter whether you know or you don't. Like you have to kind of let go of that and just live, like
Yeah.
because whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. I think a lot of the horror tropes and like whenever you watch a lot of horror films, like we always yell at the girl who goes in the basement, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you fucking idiot, you shouldn't have gone down there, you know better. But at the same time, if you had X, Y, and Z spelled out for you about what was in the basement, she might still go down there and it might be okay. Like I think that this story is a really big exercise in fear and like also like what we choose to reveal about ourselves to everybody and
Hmm.
vulnerability. It's like all of those good things, but it's really a really big exercise in fear and empathy, which I really, really appreciated to close out because it also gives like a sense, I think, of autonomy to the reader in the end
Hmm.
of like, well, you have the power to decide if you'll stay in this place or go, rather than just following blindly,
Yeah.
which is where, you take us of all these places throughout the collection and then you kind of put the ball in our court to kind of read the story in whatever lens that we want, for the ending. So I thought it was a very smart choice. But it was one that I was like, how the hell did he get here from, like how did this come to be? But it makes a lot of sense, talking through it like this, it
Yeah.
makes a lot of logical sense. So
It's a very tricky story. I did debate including it for a little while, not long, but enough that I was like, should like it's
yeah,
vulnerable and weird and is again just like two people talking in a room.
yeah,
And it brings up a lot of like touchy subjects for people.
yeah,
Um, there's even as you were saying that, which you said all so beautifully and aptly. Um, and I was thinking like, man, I really did make myself seem like, I'm a real humanist, like a real optimistic, humanistic sort of collection. But there is the flip side too of like, it is a horror story, it is a horror
yeah,
collection, uh, and we don't know how the story ends. So if it ends badly, then the story is actually confirming, like, yeah, you were dumb to go in the basement.
yeah.
You knew you should, and like, don't trust anybody ever, ever. Like it winds up becoming confirmation of nihilism.
Yeah.
So really, again, like similar to Wolf, it kind of depends on what you want to bring to it,
Hmm.
and how you want to interpret it. Because yeah, for all we know, everything that gets said in that story is a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, there's no definitive closure. I mean, you leave it with the set pieces scene, like I said, in this barfly instance of like this external viewer, but you don't know what's being said. You don't know what's transpiring. Like it just
Yeah.
looks that way exteriorly, which is what I think is probably the most haunting aspect of that story.
Hmm.
But again, if it's a good day, then you're thinking, well, maybe things will be all right. And like two
Yeah.
people can just have a conversation. And that is a lot that we could ask for these days. So,
Yeah.
you know. So that's
Yeah.
where I feel like you leave us in a pretty good place with that one.
And
But
then we have a 20-minute monologue about mushrooms
yeah,
that you're supposed to read with your friends.
I believe it or not, I got to that part of the book and I was at work and I was like, I'm gonna go take my lunch break and I'm gonna go sit in my car by myself and I read it out loud like with
Oh shit.
cadence. Just to be like, I wonder what this is gonna be.
Wow, what was that like?
A little harrowing. Then I was like, this probably is meant to be done with other people and not just me in my car
Yeah, you
alone.
probably felt insane.
A little, I was like, oh, okay. Just kind of sit for that for a minute, but no. Incredible collection on every
Thank
front,
you. Thank you for reading it.
Oh no, of course. I mean, I picked out these four because these are the ones that kind of like spoke to me the most, but there was not a bad story in this collection. Some of them I've read long ago, whenever they were chapbooks or like, Rest Stop whenever it first came out, but to see them all like in this cohesive format's really, really cool. Of course I want to ask the big question. I don't want to keep you too long because we're already like 20 minutes over the hour, but
That's what we
what's
do.
I was about to say this is kind of just what we do at this point. So it would be remiss of me if I didn't ask you how you were feeling about the Stephen King element of it all. Just because I feel like I know how big of a deal it is, and we've kind of talked in passing about it briefly at other points of like it doesn't feel real yet, it doesn't, like whatever, but like truly, how is it feeling right now? And also, like you're getting a special edition of this book with Barnes and Noble, which is really fucking awesome. There's just like there's a really big excitement about this collection, and rightfully so. So where does that leave you feeling on the
Oh.
the creator side of it?
Feeling a lot of things, feeling a
Yeah.
lot of all very good things. Um, just even just bouncing off of what you just said, um, there's just extracting my own ego and or need to pay bills out of it. Uh, I love short story collections so much.
Yeah.
I love them, and they're so looked down upon in the
Hmm.
publishing world right now. To the point where like I know this is true. This has been drilled into my head for years, but it still seems so weird to me because I
Yeah.
love short story collections so much, but people don't like to buy them. Publishers are always look at them as like they're gonna lose money on them. Like they're just kind of looked at as like vanity projects for some reason. Um, and so there's with the special edition and with the intro, there is a part of me, again, just extracting myself out of it, where I'm like, I hope this book does really well because I hope then it makes people want to publish more short story collections.
Yeah, it
Like,
reinvigorates that
yeah,
yeah.
because there have been so many fucking great ones that have even come out recently. Haley Piper's and Clay McLeod Chapman's and like I want Rachel Harrison's Bad Dolls to get a wider release and like there
Oh,
are
me
just so
too,
many
yeah.
great. Nathan Ballingrid is just among the best, and John Langan and Mariana Enriquez. Like, there's just so many incredible short story collections out there right now. And like, it would be amazing if this book could do well enough to make people go like, maybe it's not a hard sell. Maybe
Yeah.
like these are great. Especially as people get like more and more skittish about spending money on extraneous things. Like, you get so many stories in a short story collection that you don't have to commit to. Like, you can like 10 of them and hate three of them, and that's a great collection. Um, yeah, so like there's that element of it where like I really hope uh um buzz keeps building
Hmm.
and it's just like in more people's faces to remember that this is, you know, hey, let's bring it back to the Beatles. This is a collection does not just have to be a collection of songs. It can be its own artistic statement. An
Yeah.
album can be its own cohesive artistic statement, and so can a collection. So I hope that that continues. I hope that it sells well for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
Also, I got bills to pay. Um, but yeah, the Stephen King of it all is I realized this is why you're such a good interviewer because you can bring up all these like personal responses from your interviewee. I realized the other day that like I've been so fucking anytime someone asks me about it, I've been so like neurotic and so I'm very comfortable talking about my neuroses
Yeah.
for better or for ill. That I forget that like there's the element of too like people want to know how good it feels too. Like there's the like so many people would love an intro from Stephen King and like here I am being like, "Oh, I feel so fucking neurotic about it." Like no, like please feel good about it. It is amazing. It's a fucking amazing thing. And I'm so grateful. I'm so blown away by it. And the intro is fantastic. Like it was I have said before that in the interim between him agreeing to do it and turning it in,
Hmm.
I was able to compartmentalize it a little bit because I could
Yeah.
be like, oh, what if it's like a page or it's like,
This is a book. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, really generic, maybe even like backhanded of like, hey, he tried. Isn't this cute? But no, it's just this really fucking Stephen King intro.
Yeah.
And it's funny and it's witty and it's very kind. And I'm so grateful to him, and I'm so grateful to everyone in the community who was excited about it because they know how much of a fucking nerd I am about him. So like there's that element to it too that just makes me feel, you know, the love that I have for this community and that, how supportive we all are of each other is a really beautiful thing and a really necessary thing.
Hmm.
Given the time context and the industry context, like
Yeah.
uh, all of us lifting each other up is such a great thing and an important thing. Um, yeah, so like it still doesn't feel real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It'll maybe start to feel real like once I see it in bookstores and I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah. And you
shit.
can pick it up
Like
and hold it in your hands and yeah.
yeah, that is his name. Like literally all I have right now is this arc that
Yeah.
is the same thing we sent to him. So it doesn't have his stuff in it. Um, but yeah, it is like there's a weird thing I was thinking about. Maybe this is more fulsome than you want at the very end. Um, my therapist and I talk about this a lot. He calls them doorknob moments, which is like right at
Yeah.
the end of the session when you say like the most profound thing, and you're
Yeah.
like,
You're like,
"Yeah, I'll
by
see you
the
next week."
way.
By the
Yeah.
way, I wanted to have sex with my mom. Like it's like, let's go into that next week then. Um, I feel like I'm doing that right now since we've been going on for a while.
Oh,
Um,
I have nowhere to be, so take your time.
all right, in that case, we're at the halfway point, motherfuckers.
Hell yeah.
Uh, well, I was just thinking, like, it's such a weird thing, and I think we're all feeling this when we are trying to celebrate our wins
Hmm.
against the backdrop of how awful everything
Yeah.
is right now. Like, my God, is it just awful? And the primary medium through which we can express our wins, social media, is like particularly just like the awful buffet. Like it's just
Hmm.
like everything is like here's the worst things happening maybe in history. And you're like, I got a publishing deal. Or like
Yeah.
my book is coming out. And it's so it feels like we're just like tap dancing on rubble.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can be very easy to get in our heads, I think collectively of like, should I even be doing this? Like I feel like shit. Uh uh talking about this thing that makes me very happy or that like means a great deal to me or that I think other people will enjoy. Um, and I kind of made peace the other day with the realization of like as storytellers and as particularly as genre storytellers and horror storytellers specifically we all deal in contrast. Like that is the whole point of a
Hmm.
horror story is
Yeah.
contrast and the light and the dark and the good and the evil and the safe and the not safe and like where we find the uncanniness in between. And like all we do is write about contrast and twists and turns and subversion and making people feel unsafe when there should be safety and feeling safety when there should be unsafety. Like that's our bread and butter. And so there is something kind of extra nice about the mandate at the moment of like uh that I'm like trying to embrace when talking about this collection and this intro in particular. uh, because this is just like an unambiguously good thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. I was just a thing that I had been dreaming of since I was a kid. When I first started,
Just a thing.
yeah, like I literally started sending him stories when I was 13, uh, and he agreed to do it because of luck and timing and opportunity, and like it just all worked out. And he wrote like a dream come true kind of intro. And it's an unambiguously good thing. And sometimes those can happen, no
Yeah.
matter how bad everything is. Like it's important to remember, again, dealing with contrasts. Everything is fucking falling apart right now, but good things can still happen.
Yeah.
And it's kind of important to remember that too. Like I, as someone who uh has an excess of modesty. Sometimes like I feel self-conscious being like that good thing happened to me.
Oh yeah.
But Jews and Catholics, we have our guilt in common.
Oh yeah. Oh
Uh
yeah.
yeah. But still like I'm making peace with acknowledging that like yeah, this is a good thing. And like I hope similar good things happen for everyone else listening to this and hearing me blather because like it's a complicated thing to process good things right now, but like
Yeah.
they can still happen.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because it is really difficult and I don't think that we talk about how difficult it is sometimes to
Yeah.
experience like joy or also the thing that you've worked really really hard for a really long time that felt maybe far away and is no longer that far away. It is like a really, really big deal. And I think, like I was working on that stupid personal statement that I mentioned last night, and I hate talking about myself. And like that's all that you do in a personal statement. You are
Yeah.
selling yourself to an institution of like why you should pick me. And so I struggle, I empathize with this feeling of like wanting to champion the joy of this, and you kind of want to negate and be like, oh, well, it doesn't feel, real. It doesn't feel, it's just, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. But it is a huge fucking win. And I think the biggest signifier of that is like the community's response to it, because I think anybody who's talked to you or heard you speak for more than like 5 minutes knows how big of a fucking deal this is. And it's just like, yeah.
I'm wearing a Shawshank shirt right now.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that it's just really fucking cool to see. And like, we all see how hard you like, it's just one of those things that you perceive all of the little pieces of it. And then to see it kind of culminate in this way has just been really a fucking delight. Like from the outside, like even just, not that this is about everybody else at all, but it's just really cool to see the excitement around this for you in this way. Like it's just really fucking great. And I don't know, it's a very hopeful moment I think that a lot of us could use. And I'm sure you as well, but obviously, but it feels like there's a bigger piece of all this, and I partially this is because I chatted with Alan with Shortwave a few weeks ago, and we talked about like all this and like how he got Shortwave to where it is now, and like how Shortwave is now this huge thing, and it just feels like this collection, Shortwave, all of these things are mirroring one another, and
Yeah.
it's happening to really good people, and like you can't help but celebrate that, man. You just can't help but want to talk about and celebrate that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't even talked about the Allen of it all. Like,
Yeah,
my God, he's such a just a wonderful human being. And
I know.
like that's another like besides hoping that this helps make short story collections more of a acceptable practice again. Uh like God, I hope this book does well just for shortwave. Like
Yeah,
this is such a the fact that we were able to put this together and have like all the things kind of click into place for this big release for you know the first few months of this distribution deal, like I'm so happy for him. He works so goddamn hard,
I know.
like,
Yeah.
and he's such a wonderful person. Like never once do you get the sense that he's working too hard, even though he very much is.
No, and it's just like one of the big things that we had talked about was like the thoughtfulness behind all of his projects, whether it's
Yeah.
just like the killer VHS, having the pages that feel like Goosebumps book. You know what I mean? Like that degree of attention to detail, which I know is something that you have as well, obviously. If you read the Beatles story, Run for Your Life, you will get that.
Oh,
I
me and
think
Alan are a very dangerous combination
oh
because then I nitpick everything, and then I'm like, "Hey, here's 9,000 more line edits I need you to make in the PDF because I
yeah.
reread it." And like this, and he'll do it.
I
And
can
it's
believe
like, no,
I can
one of
believe
us needs
that.
to not.
I believe that there needs to be a line probably drawn in the sand where like we just have to stop at one point with both of y'all because y'all are both
Yeah.
very much oriented that way. But it makes for such a good fucking piece of art whenever you have people that care that much, you know? That's how you get things like this. And so it's really cool to see y'all collaborate in this way. Because like for instance, like I saw the post about deciding the order of the stories, like going back and forth
Mm,
and all that. And like that's something that some people, I mean, I remember before I started reading really seriously, I never once paid attention to that shit. But reading deeply and closer now, it makes a huge fucking difference. I mean, we just
mm,
talked about the importance of having meet cute number one and the meet cute number two where they were. So
yeah.
it's one of those things that I think stories are in the right hands whenever they're being treated this way, you know? So it's really cool to see it come to fruition. And I have a theory about the whole short story collection
Mm,
idea and why they've fallen out. And I feel the same way about like singles and albums. Is like, my generation was not raised when you listen to a whole album.
yeah.
Because, like, well, I mean, we did for a while with CDs, but then by the time that we had autonomy and we were like in middle school and we could purchase our own music, it was $1. It was 99 cents on iTunes. So you didn't want to spend the full money for an album if you didn't care for six of the songs. You only selectively picked the ones that you wanted.
Yeah.
And I feel like honestly that has informed a lot of artistic consumption is that, well, we don't want to buy the whole thing if we don't love the whole thing. And that's
Yeah.
not very true. And also it limits your worldview so fucking much. Like albums are meant to be listened in the order that those songs are put together, you dumbass. That's a fact that I've had to tell myself like growing up. It's like what world did you think you were living in? So there's this like this commercialization and capitalism of it all has once again ruined everything. But I feel like that has kind of fallen in a similar way with short stories of like, well, no, I'll just buy the novel because it's just the one and I know I'll be interested in that one, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It probably speaks to like the deficit of empathy that is
Yeah.
affecting so many people too, because like a short story collection asks you to empathize quickly and with a number of different scenarios instead of just
Yeah.
like the warm bath settling into a novel of like I only have to care about like this one person or group of people and I know what they're up to. Yeah, it is even with CDs like I remember during the CD era like it was kind of shitty how like you could skip a song. Like
Yeah.
it used to be. I'm gonna sound 1,000 years old now. And I wasn't that old when CDs became a thing. I was in my like early adolescence. But like I was raised in a vinyl household.
Yeah, you're not
Uh,
picking up the
no, that takes so much
yeah.
time.
No, to
And
try
then
and find where you want. You're just letting it
I
play
would
through. Yeah.
Right, right, because it's you gotta like get it in the right groove, and also cassettes. Like cassettes were my
Yeah.
life, even
Hmm.
through the time I moved to New York City. Like even when portable CD players were a thing, I was all about cassettes and mixtapes and stuff like that. And cassettes, like it's nobody wants to like fast forward to the right time. You stick with the song you don't want to hear,
Hmm.
and you get through it. And invariably, some of those songs are now like some of my favorite songs on that album. I
Yeah.
remember, let's bring it back to the Beatles. I remember during Sgt. Pepper, I used to listen to Sgt. Pepper all the time. It was never my favorite Beatles album. You know, I was always much more of a White Album or a Rubber Soul obsessive. But I love Sgt. Pepper. Sgt. Pepper's great. Very important album. And George Harrison's song Within You, Without You, when I was a kid, oh my God, that song was like fucking vegetables. It was like what was it, 25 minutes long of just like a sitar and he's just like singing about like, fucking we were talking. It's like come on, I want to get to the weird stuff. Like, as if I was listening to that much Indian music that this wasn't atypical for me. But I was just like, I want the music hall and I want the reprise and day in a life. Like I want that stuff. This is so boring. But I would have to fucking suffer through it because what was I gonna
Yeah.
do? Fast forward? Now within you without you is like it's like a 3 minute song. Like it's over so fast, but also like it's one of my favorite songs ever.
Hmm.
And I had to eat my vegetables at the time when I was listening to that thing.
Yeah.
Um, like you never know how important a thing is going to be to you if you are able to dispense with it quickly. And it's a thing I have to remind myself all the time too, because like I'll shuffle through shit on my Apple Music and I'll be like, I don't want to hear that. Beep. I don't want to
Yep.
hear that. Beep. But like, man, there really is something to just like having to look at a thing as a whole and realize like that thing is not speaking to me now, but that doesn't
Hmm.
mean it's without merit, and it doesn't mean it's without like greater meaning that I will maybe get something from later.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and
Yeah.
get off my lawn.
No, no, I'm with you. I think that we're coming around to that idea because it's just like it's too fleeting. Like how often do you like really get hooked on a song, you overplay the shit out of it and then it's gone and done forever. Like that's sad. That's really upsetting because somebody spent a lot
Yeah,
of fucking time on that song and it's like very disposable, I think is the way that you'd phrase it. So it's I don't know. I feel like you should be more intentional with it. Now, having looked back on, the changes and the shifts and all of that, I feel like you should be a little bit more intentional with art and this thing that somebody put a lot of time and
yeah.
artistry into. But, yeah. Okay. So what the hell are you up to now? What does the rest of your year look like? Did you read anything good lately? All that good shit.
What's a book? I don't know. What is a book? I
Yeah.
don't have my list of things I've read. Um, yeah, I basically now I am in a mad dash to try and finish the second draft of my next book,
Right on.
uh, which this book has been put on a lot of fight. It has not been an easy birth. Second draft is going a little easier, but like I still have a long ways to go, and I got to get it done as soon as possible. I'm very
Hmm.
excited about it. I can't wait for people to read it. In a similar way, I was just having an interesting discussion. I shouldn't say I was having a discussion because I did the thing I do sometimes where I tweeted about it and then ran away. So other people were having a discussion about it that I was observing, and
Yeah.
I didn't tweet about it. I threaded about it. I'm not on Twitter.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, but the book that I'm writing right now is very much a tragedy. I
Yeah.
love tragedy, like classical tragedy. And it was an interesting sort of discussion that was being had because I also feel like short story collections, tragedies are a sort of a hard sell
Hmm.
right now. Like it, and like a just a, like a straight, unambiguous. Here's a character we love, and something bad is gonna happen to them.
Yeah.
I think if it's not like a series or a triumph or something like that, it can be a little bit of a harder sell, emotionally speaking, or it can like be looked at as a flaw.
Hmm.
But like it's a bleak book. It's a really bleak book, and like intentionally bleak. Like I'm the two biggest things I have been finding inspiration from for the ending are Anna Karenina and 1984. Like those are the endings that I'm looking for. Um, and yeah, so it's like I'm really excited to just ruin people's day
Perfect.
with this book for a reason. Like
Yeah.
I want you to sit with the discomfort of this ending. But it's a lot to work on. Oh
No,
boy,
yeah.
is it a bummer. And yeah, so that's I gotta have this second draft done by like the summer.
Yeah.
So I gotta start saying no to things, but I
Yeah.
don't want to. And then
Yeah.
after that, it's just whatever. I've got a few other like short story commissions that I really need to get cracking on.
Hmm.
This has just become the year of short stories,
Yeah.
unintentionally. And yeah, then I've got the next two novels planned. Like I know what they're going to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I got to start outlining those. And yeah, then it's
Do you,
just like we'll see.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel like writing, like how has it been feeling writing and you kind of alluded to it, but like are you having a bad good time or like how is it feeling to sit with something that is like bleak? You know what I mean? At this stage of the game. Because I normally talk to authors whenever it's been refined, polished,
Yeah.
finished, and it's on the way out the door. But like right now, you're in the middle of it, and I'm curious how you're feeling.
My editor, when she was reading the first draft, told me that she had to keep putting the book down because it was depressing her too much.
God.
Um, and some of that we got to pull back on
Yeah.
because I don't want people to put the book down as readers. And I don't think they will. Like, because weirdly, the challenge right now is making it less bleak so
Hmm.
that the bleakness hits harder.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, because if
Yeah.
it's a
So
one
like,
note punch, then you're kind
yeah,
of yeah.
exactly. So like that's the kind of challenge I'm in right now is like, finding the joy in it, finding the fun in it,
Yeah,
so that when things do go south,
I feel really bad.
yeah, like I want you to feel worse in a shorter period of time. Um, and to also like, to have it not feel, I think part of the reason why tragedies might not be as au courant right now is I think some people find that then the journey to get to that bad ending is a waste of time
Yeah.
because like, oh, that's what we were leading up to. But then the challenge is like you got to make all of that stuff count as much as possible
Yeah.
leading up to the badness. Um, yeah, it's funny. I don't even feel like it is a spoiler to be talking about how bleak the ending of this book is. Uh, but yeah, like that. My mandate right now with draft two is like I'm really just trying to like find the joy in it,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of joy in there, but it's just there's so many. It's about social media and the internet and phone addiction and
Yeah.
what it
You've
must
been
be like to
very
be a kid right
transparent
now. Yeah,
about what it's about and like that it is a bad, and I mean, it is a bad time. I mean, we were
this kind
living.
of transparent.
Yeah.
So I hold up my clear phone. That was a visual
Yeah.
joke for the listener. Sorry, I interrupted you to make a shitty pun.
No, no. I mean, I just feel like you've been very transparent about it, like on social media, like when you do talk about it or like in conversation or whatever. Like I don't think it'll be a surprise to anybody that this is this kind of book. I don't think you're gonna be pulling the rug out from underneath anybody. But I mean, I think with what the subject matter that you're wrestling with is, it's on par for that. Like
Yeah.
it's of that tone. So
I'm excited about this moment. Like there are a number of reasons why I'm so stressed out about this book, including like I really just want it to come out as soon
yeah.
as possible. That's kind of the biggest one, and it's like some books just take longer because they're tricky.
Hmm.
So it's not the book's fault, but like I'm looking at the calendar being like, ah, come on, book.
Yeah.
But like I want it to come out as soon as possible because I want it to be in conversation with the other books that are coming out from other authors about similar things. Like Paul Tremblay's got his AI
Yep.
book, Amakatsu's got her AI book coming out, and we're all wrestling with the same anxieties, and none of us are going to write the same story,
Yeah.
and that's I think really exciting. That's really fun
Yeah.
to
No.
just like we'll be reading about this stuff for the next couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
And I hope that I can finish this in time to contribute to like the first round of it. Because it's these are big questions and everybody has like a different take on it. So yeah, I'm finding the excitement in bumming everybody out.
What a concept. What a concept. Well, we've talked for nearly like 2 hours now. So
Oh yeah, look at that.
yeah, I feel terrible for not monopolizing your time like this, but great conversation per usual. Um, Very thrilled for your collection to come out so that everybody can experience it in equal right.
Thank you, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, it's coming up very quickly.
Got to plug it up. Remember to plug it. Plug,
Yeah.
plug, plug.
Is there anything else that you wanted to chat about before we wrap this bad boy up?
Some doorknob moments. Uh, I keep dreaming I'm my dad. No. That's actually not true. No, I don't think so. I feel like we covered a lot. I feel good about what we covered.
Yeah.
Um, just please pre-order. Everybody pre-order. Pre-order
Yeah.
multiple copies. Do it for shortwave.
Do
Do
it
it
for
for short
shortwave.
story collections.
Yeah.
Don't do it
Yeah.
for me.
Let's change the course of our single-minded streaming
Yeah.
mindset and go back to the vinyl album days. And
Do it for the
let's,
Beatles.
yeah, bring it all the way full back, full circle.
Yeah.
Well, Nat, always a joy. Thank you so very much. I, again,
Oh,
very,
thank you.
very thrilled. I Know a Place comes out on May 5th from Shortwave. Like I said, everybody needs to pick up a copy, and I will be waiting very impatiently to feel terrible with your next book after that as well.
Yeah, I feel like you in particular might feel very terrible about this book, so I apologize in advance.
I mean, I'm signing up for it. It's like the informed consent that your doctor has you sign. Like I
Yeah,
know what
exactly.
I know the bad time that I'm signing up for, so it's okay.
And don't worry, everybody. There's plenty of weird, gross shit in there too.
Oh,
So,
no doubt. No doubt at all. Thank you so much, Nat. Wonderful time.
thank
Wonderful,
you.
wonderful, terrible time.
Yay! There's the title.
Once again, very, very big thank you to Mr. Nat Cassidy for nearly 2 hours of unpacking I Know a Place, Rest Stop, and Other Dark Detours. Looking back, I really enjoyed this conversation. Listening to it, again on the edit. Uh, there's so much I could talk with Nat about in this collection, and I'm glad that we hit on the topics that we did. But it really says something whenever you can have nearly a 2 hour interview and feel like, oh, we could have talked about this too. So that's just how rich this collection is. It just speaks to Nat's artistry, his talent, and how much is in this collection. I've got a hard copy in my hands now. It is very thick. It's a very cool book to have in my hands to hold a collection of Nats like this. So I am so overly stoked for him if that wasn't made very apparent already. Looking forward to the rest of this week. I have another episode that I'll be sharing with you all, and it's going to be with Alan of Shortwave that we keep talking about. He is the author of his own book, Face the Night. We're going to talk about his book, and then of course we're gonna talk about Shortwave. I really loved talking to Alan to hear about his creative process, and what he wanted to accomplish with Shortwave and how it came to be, and how it's gotten to the point that it's at. I am really, really thrilled to share this episode because it's one of my favorite interviews that I've done with a fellow creative. So nothing but the most respect towards Alan. He's just one of the hardest working, most intelligent people that I've talked to. So it makes for a very, very fascinating and fun interview to do, quite frankly. So that'll be later this week. Until then, I'll see you all on Thursday,